Pat Riley, a Hall of Fame coach, the master strategist who had once built the Showtime Lakers into champions, delivered a statement that sent shockwaves through the NBA. "I don't think anybody's going to win again until Michael retires." It was a cold, bitter truth that no one dared to refute. Riley wasn't speaking about just a great player, he was describing an immovable wall, an unbeatable barrier. His words painted Jordan not only as the greatest talent of his generation, but as the very force that locked the championship door for everyone else. As long as Jordan reigned, no other team had a chance. Jordan through the eyes of the master strategist Riley. Pat Riley was never one to hand out praise lightly. Known for his icy stare, slicked back hair, and relentless pursuit of excellence, Riley represented the very essence of discipline and strategy in the NBA. He built Showtime in Los Angeles, turned the Knicks into a defensive machine in the early 92nd, and later engineered the culture of the Miami Heat. For a man so obsessed with toughness and execution, to single out Michael Jordan in the way he did speaks volumes. Riley once famously said, "If I had to choose a player to take a shot to save a game, I'd choose Michael Jordan." For someone who coached legends like Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, James Worthy, and Patrick Ewing, this was no casual remark. It was an acknowledgement that when the game was on the line, no one matched Jordan's cold-blooded ability to seize the moment. His respect for Jordan was not rooted in admiration from afar, but forged through battle. As head coach of the Knicks in the early 92nd, Riley prepared his players for the wars against Chicago. Greg Anthony, a guard on those Knicks teams, recalled how Riley drilled into them the belief that they would not bow to Jordan. He demanded that the Knicks view the Bulls as equals, not untouchable idols. "We never feared him," Anthony said, "but Riley made sure we knew what we were up against." Even without fear, the reality was undeniable. Jordan was always the final obstacle, the immovable force standing between Riley's teams and a championship. This is what makes Riley's words after the 1997 series so powerful. He wasn't speaking as a commentator or fan. He was speaking as a competitor, a master strategist who had spent his career devising ways to topple dynasties. If anyone knew how to identify weaknesses, it was Pat Riley, and yet, when it came to Jordan, Riley admitted the truth plainly. There were no weaknesses to exploit. You could scheme, you could prepare, you could throw every defender and every strategy at him, and still, he would prevail. For Riley, Jordan was not just another opponent. He was the standard by which all others were measured, a force that bent the strategies of entire franchises. Every game plan, every defensive adjustment, every psychological preparation revolved around one man, Michael Jordan. That kind of gravitational pull is something no other player in history has commanded to the same degree, and so, when Riley chose his words carefully after that playoff defeat, "I don't think anybody's going to win again until Michael retires," he wasn't exaggerating. He was stating a reality that he himself had been forced to confront year after year. When Jordan was prepared, focused, and fully in season form, no strategy on earth could stop him. Jordan as the invisible barrier for an entire generation. Numbers alone cannot capture the suffocating reality of Michael Jordan's dominance. His very presence in the NBA acted like a giant steel gate slammed shut in front of every other team's championship dreams. Between 1991 and 1998, when Jordan was fully committed and had a full offseason to prepare, the Bulls won 6 championships in 8 years. The 2 years they didn't, Jordan wasn't there. In 1994, he was swinging a baseball bat. In 1995, he returned late in the season with what many described as a baseball body and was still shaking off the rust. The Houston Rockets won their back-to-back titles only in that small window of opportunity, but when Jordan came back properly, when he had time to recondition, the NBA immediately felt the door slam shut again. The 1,996 Bulls set a then-record 72-10 regular season, stormed through the playoffs, and began another three-peat. It was as if Jordan was reminding the league. The throne had always been his, and his absence was the only reason anyone else touched it. Teams of the 92nd were not weak pretenders. The New York Knicks, built under Pat Riley, were rugged, disciplined, and among the best defensive squads in history. The Indiana Pacers under Larry Bird had Reggie Miller's sharpshooting and a deep supporting cast. The Orlando Magic boasted young Shaquille O'Neal and Penny Hardaway, a duo destined for greatness. The Miami Heat of 1,997, with Alonzo Mourning and Tim Hardaway, were the #1 defensive team in the league, yet none of them could break through. They were all formidable, but Jordan reduced them to footnotes in his story. What made this barrier so unique was that it wasn't just statistical, it was psychological. Opponents knew that even if they played their best basketball, Jordan would raise his game higher. Stories abound of players losing sleep before facing him, of defenders realizing that no matter how perfectly they executed their coach's plan, Jordan would find a way to rip it apart. Unlike other superstars, Jordan didn't just beat you, he made you feel as if beating him was impossible. Contrast this with other eras. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird shared the 82nd, trading titles between the Lakers and Celtics, while Detroit snatched a couple in between. The 2002nd belonged mostly to Kobe and Shaq, but the Spurs carved out 4 championships in the same decade. Even in LeBron James's era, teams like the Warriors, Spurs, Mavericks, and Celtics all tasted glory. Only Jordan's reign carried the suffocating sense that one man's presence closed off the championship path for everyone else. That is the context behind Riley's remark. It wasn't hyperbole, it was the lived reality of the NBA. As long as Jordan laced up his sneakers and took the court with a full season under his belt, no one else was winning. He wasn't just the best player, he was the invisible barrier that defined an entire generation of basketball. The jersey, no. 23 as a symbol, beyond basketball. Numbers in sports often carry meaning, but few numbers have transcended the game the way 23 has. For most athletes, a jersey number is just an identifier. For Michael Jordan, number 23 became a global symbol, an emblem of excellence, dominance, and the unreachable standard of greatness. Pat Riley understood this more than anyone. When LeBron James joined the Miami Heat in 2010, one of the first statements from the Heat organization was that the number 23 would not be worn. Riley insisted that it belonged to Jordan, calling him the greatest of all time. Think about that. Even while building his team around LeBron James, then considered the best player in the league, Riley still acknowledged Jordan's aura as untouchable. LeBron was the centerpiece of Miami's championship ambitions. Yet Riley made it clear that some legacies are too sacred to be borrowed. This wasn't just about protecting a number, it was a recognition that Jordan's impact had moved beyond basketball. The number 23 became shorthand for the pursuit of perfection. Kids across the world wore it not because they played for Chicago, but because they wanted to channel Jordan's relentless will to win. Even today, decades after his retirement, 23 remains the most iconic jersey in sports. For Riley, who spent his entire career instilling culture, discipline, and respect, retiring 23-inch spirit was his way of reminding everyone, LeBron included, that the shadow of Michael Jordan still loomed over the game. To wear 23 was to invite comparison with a standard that no one, not even the greatest stars of the modern era, has surpassed: Jordan as the ultimate weapon in the eyes of champions. Pat Riley's words about Michael Jordan weren't an isolated perspective. They echoed what other legends of the game, men who knew what it meant to dominate, had long acknowledged. Jordan possessed something no other player ever had, what Kareem Abdul-Jabbar once described as the greatest weapon in the history of the game. Think about the weight of that statement. Kareem isn't just another retired player giving an opinion. He is the NBA's all-time leader in MVP awards, 6, a 6-time champion himself, and for nearly 4 decades, the league's all-time scoring leader. Yet even with his towering resume, Kareem pointed to Jordan as the one who had the ultimate advantage, a weapon that combined supreme athleticism, flawless fundamentals, and above all, an unrelenting competitive fire. That weapon wasn't just Jordan's scoring ability, it was his will, his killer instinct, the drive that made him not only want to beat you, but to break you, to leave no doubt that you could never stand on his level. Riley recognized it from the sidelines. Kareem saw it from his vantage point as a contemporary and competitor, and every player of the 1,992nd felt it in real time. Jordan didn't just have talent, he had a psychological arsenal that bent the league to his will. This is what separated Jordan from everyone else. Other greats had talent, skill, and accolades. Magic Johnson was the greatest floor general. Larry Bird was the coldest marksman. Kobe Bryant mirrored Jordan's moves and mentality. LeBron James has longevity and versatility. But none of them inspired Hall of Fame coaches and fellow legends to speak about them as if the entire league was powerless in their presence. No one ever said, "You can't win until LeBron retires." No one ever declared Kobe's very existence as a barrier to championships. That kind of reverence was reserved for Jordan alone. When Kareem described Jordan's game as the ultimate weapon, he was affirming what Riley and so many others knew, that Jordan changed the terms of competition itself. You weren't just playing against a man, you were playing against inevitability. His presence made victory feel impossible, his preparation made excuses irrelevant, and his execution left opponents hopeless. For Pat Riley, for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and for an entire generation of coaches and players, Michael Jordan wasn't simply the best player, he was the ultimate weapon, the singular force of nature that defined the 1992nd and closed the door on anyone else's dreams of greatness. Riley's culture of battle. From Lakers to Heat. To fully understand the weight of Pat Riley's words about Michael Jordan, you have to understand the man behind them. Riley wasn't just another coach in the league, he was the architect of entire basketball cultures, a strategist who shaped the DNA of every team he touched. From the glitz of Los Angeles to the grit of New York, and finally the relentless culture of Miami, Riley's philosophy was always built on one principle: nothing is given, everything is earned. With the Showtime Lakers, Riley created an empire around Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The mantra there was no rebounds, no rings. It was a constant reminder that championships weren't about flash or talent alone, but about controlling the most fundamental aspects of the game. Riley's Lakers won 4 championships in the 1982nd because he demanded discipline to match the talent. When he took over the New York Knicks in the early 1992nd, the environment couldn't have been more different. Gone were the fast breaks and Hollywood glamour. This was trench warfare. Riley instilled a brutal, defensive-first identity in his Knicks. They became one of the toughest, most physical teams in history, designed specifically to challenge Jordan's Bulls. Every hard foul, every grinded-out possession was part of Riley's mission to forge a team capable of breaking through Chicago's dynasty. And yet, despite their ferocity, even those Knicks couldn't topple the ultimate barrier. Jordan remained the immovable object. By the time Riley moved to Miami, he had perfected his coaching identity. The Heat under his leadership became synonymous with toughness, sacrifice, and an almost military sense of order. What we now call Heat culture was Riley's brainchild, a system where conditioning, accountability, and mental fortitude mattered as much as skill. Players were pushed to the edge, expected to buy into a collective identity where excuses did not exist. And this is why Riley's statement about Jordan carries such profound meaning. He wasn't a man prone to excuses. He never allowed his teams to fear anyone. He believed in preparation, culture, and discipline as the tools to overcome any opponent. But when it came to Michael Jordan, even Riley had to concede. Culture, toughness, and strategy could only take you so far. Against Jordan, the rules of battle changed. That concession doesn't diminish Riley, it amplifies Jordan. If a general like Riley, who demanded his teams never bow to anyone, was willing to say that championships were off the table until Jordan left the battlefield, it tells you everything you need to know. Jordan was not simply another opponent, he was the standard that even the fiercest cultures, even the most disciplined systems, could not surpass. From the bright lights of Showtime to the trenches of New York and the relentless grind of Miami, Pat Riley built his legacy on preparing men to face anything. But in Jordan, he encountered the one force no culture could break: conclusion. Riley was absolutely right. Pat Riley's words after that 1997 playoff loss were more than a passing comment. They were a verdict on an era. As long as Michael Jordan played, nobody else was winning. Coming from Riley, a Hall of Fame coach, a culture builder, and one of the greatest basketball minds of all time, this wasn't exaggeration. It was the purest truth. The evidence speaks for itself. Between 1991 and 1998, Jordan's Bulls captured 6 championships in 8 seasons, never losing once in the finals. The only years the trophy escaped Chicago were the years Jordan was gone. Opponents weren't weak. They were loaded with talent. The Knicks, Pacers, Magic, Heat, and Jazz all fielded Hall of Famers and elite coaches. Yet every one of them hit the same wall: Michael Jordan. What makes Riley's statement unprecedented is that no other player has ever inspired it. Nobody ever said, "You can't win until Kobe retires." Nobody ever declared that the league was locked until LeBron stepped aside. Great players defined eras, but they always shared space with rivals who claimed rings of their own. Jordan was different. His dominance was absolute. His presence alone closed the door on an entire generation of contenders. That is why Riley's words resonate even decades later. They capture not just Jordan's greatness, but his singularity. He wasn't merely the best, he was the barrier, the immovable wall, the force of inevitability that made every other team's championship dreams irrelevant. For Riley, a man who lived and breathed competition, admitting that truth was the highest form of respect, and so, the conclusion is inescapable. Pat Riley was right. His declaration wasn't just a moment of frustration, it was history written in real time. Jordan wasn't simply the greatest player of his era, he was the reason no one else could claim it. When the GOAT debate resurfaces, Riley's statement remains a lighthouse cutting through the noise. Longevity, stats, and accolades all matter. But there has only ever been one man whose existence alone shut down an entire league's pursuit of a title. That man was, and always will be, Michael Jeffrey Jordan.